the fastest show in sports.
When the Eastern Conference Finals ended the other night, I actually wanted to make sure I was in my couch watching how TNT and Shaq and Charles and Kenny and Ernie Johnson would sign off. I made sure to watch as Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller and Stan Van Gundy were going through the entire litany of broadcasters from Bob Neal back in the day all the way through. I made sure to watch that because I remember as a kid saying, hey, what the hell is this channel? As I'm flipping through the channels like an idiot when I first found cable, my dad was pissing my dad off at the remote, and I came across a game because I'd always flip a channel to find a game. And there's a basketball game. It may be in Chicago. I don't care. I'm going to watch. I'm watching Michael Jordan. Holy shit. Yeah. That's what TBS and Turner did for me.
But it was it was also Turner, TBS, and then later TNT that did it.
Yeah,
brilliant production, simple production, fun production. Yep. That's what I'm saying. You could have fun at those games watching them.
Ready? Hang on. Here's what they did. They just called the game. They just called the game. The game was the show. Yeah. There was nothing else. There was nothing contrived. So I made sure to watch the other night, and I kind of felt what EJ was saying. And Shaq was awesome. He said, this is where I'm glad I don't work for ESPN anymore because I'd be on their side. He says, we're not coming to fuck around, ESPN. We're coming to take over. Shaq literally dropped F-bombs on the end of the show. It was awesome.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, so, look, having worked for ESPN too. Go ahead, Kevin. I cut you off.
I'm done. I'm on my rant. It's over. You're over. Go ahead.
I think, an era has passed. It was an amazing time. I go back to, I don't know, 10 years ago. It was about 10 years ago. Maybe it was a little longer, 2012. Fox Sports 1 was starting up. And and I had this agent, and every agent I've had has been brutal. But I've yet to look myself in the mirror and figure out that it was my fault. But I guess what I'm getting at is this guy was Jim Ornstein. He was also like Andy Roddick's agent. One day he came to meet me in New York. I came up to meet him instead of him coming to DC. And he's like really late. And he goes, I had to meet with Whoopi Goldberg today. And I'm like, Jesus, why am I even a client? But one thing he did for me was he got me a radio deal in DC. And he also, he got me out to FS1 for some tryouts on this show. And I can't remember, like I was in the final thing and they took me out to dinner and then they didn't give me an offer. But during the final dinner, when it had all these guys, Gary Payton, Donovan McNabb, Andy Roddick, all these athletes were there that were going to sort of, he goes, look, no offense to you writers. And I think Pete Schrager was one of them and a couple other guys that I knew. No offense to you writers, but the athletes carry the day now. And, that's what, and the guy's name was Scotty Ackerman, who I'll give him his credit. He pioneered the whole scene of Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long and Jimmy Johnson coming in on horseback, and that became the NFL today. This guy was out of his element at that point. He was old fangled, and what he didn't realize, and what none of us realized, and I could have told him then if I had the balls, was this isn't about an athlete. This isn't about getting someone who can speak to, playing the game on there. It's about people who are likable on television. And it's about getting a group together that's likable. And that's why FS1 and their panels fell apart, because Gary Payton wasn't likable on TV. Donovan McNabb wasn't like Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaquille O'Neal, are likable people. Ernie Johnson he's the Roy Rogers of his day. He's one of the nicest people. I don't think anybody's ever met a guy like Ernie Johnson and said that they didn't like him.
Well, you're also talking about the era of Craig Sager. Everybody loved Craig. Craig got along with everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Because
remember Craig, the guy who
Craig
used
really
to
didn't have an ego. He came up, he wore crazy suits and jackets on the air, but he was just having a good time. See, that's the difference. When I'm watching TNT, I feel like I'm having a good time with guys and gals and people who are just there to enjoy the sport, enjoy the game. When I watch anything on Fox or ESPN, I feel like I'm being hit over the head with contrived controversy and some of the arrogance that's involved, and it's me doing all this and me saying this and the fights that go on back and forth. I don't know. It's like when I watch the intermission of the NHL games done on TNT with Bissonnette and that whole crew. I'm just having fun. I mean, when they're doing it, I don't feel like I'm being beat over the head.
It's a different world. And I think you're right. It's almost like ESPN's panel shows, and I've been on those panel shows, but ESPN's panel shows, they're almost like, okay, these are audience tested. These are the takes we're going to have. Like, no, just go with your gut and have the people that are actually giving the takes tell you what they're thinking. And
It's
if they argue, they argue.
Mike.
If they don't, you get levity. Oh my God! God forbid there's levity in freaking sports anymore. God forbid somebody's cracking up in the studio over something so ridiculous.
What I get every time from watching ESPN, I get this self-importance. We're ESPN. We're the worldwide leaders in sports. We are the best there is at what we do. You have to listen to us. Nobody knows better than us. That's not the case.
Well, they are in some ways, but
not in every way. It's that arrogance factor. It's a complete arrogance. Right. I don't get that when I watch TNT, and I didn't get it even though I'm not a basketball fan. When I would watch the NBA on TNT and I would watch their shows, it was fun. It was entertaining.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just, guys sitting there talking. ESPN, it's like, we're going to beat you over the head that we're the worldwide leader in sports. I don't care. All I want is to be entertained.
I'll give you a little insight real quick. I wrote Shaquille O'Neal's book some 25 years. If I have a friend that was an athlete, I would say he's it. Now there's no equity in that friendship. He never calls me on my birthday, but it's like I can call him this day and age and get him on the phone, and probably a week he'll call me back.
Okay, well, you can get him on the show next week. There you go. There's your job. Go for it.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, if he would do it, these guys all sign these deals now where they're excluded. But yeah, if we could get him on here, I would do it a heartbeat. But so, and Charles is somebody that, like, oh my God, I've known Charles forever. Charles is one of the best people in the world. Like, one day I was like literally headlocked at the NBA finals, and he goes, it was Barkley behind me, and none of the people could believe it that I worked with at ESPN, because they're like, I didn't know you guys were that tight. And Barkley was the one who told me, basically, like, I was trying to have some hair on the top of my head in my late 30s. And he was going, what are you doing? Like, going, and he goes, Mike, look at me. He said, take it back to God. Take it back to God when you were a baby. Just take it all off. And like, I literally started going bald at that point. I was like, but anyway, I knew these guys, and I knew Jet a little bit, but I knew those two. So when Shaq really got angry at Barkley one time, early on in Shaq's tenure in the show, when I thought there was going to be a real fight, I sent Shaq a text and I said, were you really angry? Were you really angry at Charles there? And he goes, he's like, that motherfucker, I'm going to slap him off this. Like, it was serious. And then I sent something to Chuck and I said, look, Shaquille's a big kid sometimes. He's the most biggest insecure person of that size I've ever met. Like, and he goes, man, he's got to chill out, man. I felt like I was a liaison between the two, but but the bottom line is they figured it out, and they were just real people. They were good people, and that's what people want to see on the air. They don't want to see phonies.
I also have to speak from a slight personal side of things, because I know a lot of the people who are involved at TNT and Turner Sports. I've worked with them over the years, and I've worked with a lot of people who worked at ESPN. And again, Kevin, I'll leave you out of this if you want. It's okay, but this is just the personal experience. Every time I worked on an ESPN production, there was an angst that was there about, this is ESPN. Don't screw up. Don't get it wrong. Follow the party line. Don't have any fun. When I worked with the people at Turner Sports and those, it was, let's do this right. Come on, guys. Let's have a good time doing this. Let's just spit it out. Things happen. Stuff goes on. And don't worry about it. If something screws up, we'll get past it. There's a real dichotomy there between the two. So I'm sad to see TNT go from NBA, because I now know we're going to get hit over the head with everything that's not fun. At least that's the way it sounds anymore. But that's why I like what goes on in the intermission for TNT at the Stanley Cup Final. I think those guys are great. They do an outstanding job, and they make me just relax and enjoy it. Hey, even Lady Shannon likes it, and she's not that big into all the intermission stuff, but she's a big hockey fan. Even she likes it.
I think we're going to be fine next year because you've got NBC and Amazon Prime. And a lot of the TNT folk are going to those outlets.
Well, that's the only saving grace, is because Amazon Prime and some of the others have already proven that they can't produce their way out of a paper bag.
That's fair. What you are going to get, and this is going to be where I'm going to watch Shaq, Kenny, EJ, and Chuck. That show inside the NBA is going to be done out of Atlanta, where they are now, but it will air on ESPN. And ESPN will be their bosses. ESPN will be their bosses. That's the one to watch. Do they let Mike, those guys, those four, particularly those three, do they let those three be themselves? Do they shoehorn Stephen A in there?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that's the big concern. Is like, where are they going to use this as a cross promotion?
The chemistry they've got is perfect.
Is this going to be a cross promotion vehicle and all that? Stephen A, that might be the best thing for his career, is just to go on there and be a regular guy and get laughed at and shot down, and he doesn't have to do the, according to my sources, pesto and marinara, Allen Iverson has been disrespected again.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to shoot Stephen A down. You're not allowed to do that. He's their face right now.
But you're
if you take a shot at him, they're going to bounce you as quick as they can.
What is that show going to be like? I would argue that this. They let that trailer park piece of trash McAfee be who he wants. So maybe, but that's his own production company. So maybe, I don't know.
Right.
Either way, you're right. I think it's going to be more bells and whistles that are going to be attractive to some viewers and like repulsive to us. But it's all about the content. If the content is good, you'll watch it. If not, I think those guys, they'll take the paycheck, but at some time they'll get bored and they'll go, let's get the hell out of here.
Well, you brought up a good point, too, because it really seems as if, and I could be overgeneralizing this, but a lot of times when it comes down to production, ESPN is bells and whistles. It's all the latest. Here's what we have. Let's get the graphics in there. Let's get the swoosh in there. Let's do everything we can. When you watch TNT, whether it's basketball or hockey, it's not a lot of that crap that goes with it. It's guys sitting at the table, talking, being honest, spitting out things that they like, that they don't like, and that has a real gather to it. I think people are sick and tired of the bullshit graphics. Just give me what you guys think. Have some fun and make me feel like I'm part of the gang.
Ed, you know this.
I miss. Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Well, Ed, especially because this is where I met you doing television. You've come across TV producers and execs who say, we need to hammer. Coming up next, here's this. There are TV execs who love the buzzwords, the catchwords, where if I'm in my fucking kitchen or I'm sitting at the couch scrolling on my phone or having a beer and you say that buzzword, I immediately go, who? Like a dog. I look right up. Who? What do we got? And then TV execs love those. And ESPN is loaded with those kind of executives.
Well, the ratings people love them because that's what it is. It's all push things ahead. Make sure that you keep retention. I mean, that started back in the 80s.
I was once told, I don't care what you say, a good show is if we got out on time and throw it to the site on time for the start of a basketball game. And I went, excuse me? An hour pregame show. Someone once said, just as long as, so the tip is at 02, at 8:02, as long as it's 7:58, I've done the legal ID on radio, and I'm tossing it at 7:58. As long as we hit it at 58, that's a good show. I could have made fucking fart noises for 1 hour. As long as I tossed at 58, it was a good show.
Exactly.
Well, the promo, the way they do promos on TNT is some of it's funny. I mean, they have them do like literally they'll like if they let that go, that's funny. Like if it's a serious promo for the next show,
cut each other off.
get up in the morning. Screw that. Like I don't
have seen
care.
enough time right now where the general public enjoys the self-effacing humor. Have some fun with it. Don't be an arrogant son of a bitch. You're just a guy or a gal just like us. Have some fun with it. But with ESPN, everything is self-grandiorized, where we're the most important thing in the world. TNT was a bunch of guys who had fun.
Yeah, well, but you know what? But you know what? The ESPN is. I mean, that's NBC, that's CNN, that's like it's endemic. I mean, if you want to know the biggest parasites in this world, take out the network executives because they're that's the part of their job. The biggest parasites in the world are these producers that call you up and treat you like you're the most wonderful person in the world, and then they just forget about you the next day, or they get a bigger guest and they forget. Like they're just they're parasitical. They're not good people. They just, and I've really met some nice producers in my life. They're just about the most fraudulent. They're like they basically sell you a house with a toilet that fell through the bottom of the house as long as they got their commission. So if they put those producers on that show, they're in trouble.
If you want an example of that, go to HBO Max and watch the show Hacks, which is about the entertainment industry and is just absolutely brilliant. That's more factual than anything you could possibly get. I won't tell Kevin to watch it because he doesn't watch anything that doesn't have sports in it, and I can't figure that out.
That's all, folks.